So let's look again at hard proofing and let's make it even better. Well, hello and welcome to this Fotospeed video with me, Tim Jones. Today what we're going to be looking at is a revisit almost of going back to hard proofing and having a look and seeing if we can refine the technique a little bit more. Now, for anyone who hasn't watched my hard proofing video, please go back and watch it because I talk about how we can proof an image and save paper, time and ink as well. So well worth a watch. Basically in that video though, I create little pictures to go on one sheet of A4 and then we print them individually and make adjustments based on those little pictures. Now the problem with this is, so when we shrink an image down to fit on our top half of our paper, then what happens is all the colours and gradients are going to get a little bit compressed. So we're not going to see how the gradients and how the shadows are looking, because what can happen is the highlights can blow a little bit, but mainly the shadows can block a bit as well. So we're going to lose some detail in there. So I've been having a play around. So I've developed a little technique of where I can do some strips and make adjustments across. Now I've done this in Lightroom because Lightroom is a fantastic tool for printing and it does it really nice and easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through how I make these adjustments and how I put them all on the page. And then I'm going to actually print one of these on a really big sheet of A2. And my plan is to use 2 to 3 sheets of A4 for some tests and 1 sheet of A2. That's all I'm going to use. I don't want to be burning through loads of A2 paper because it's expensive and it's going to use a lot of ink as well. So what I want to do is do one of these test strips and just to have a look and see if I'm missing anything in the picture, to be honest, or just to see I'm getting everything right and my print's going to come out how I expect it to. Now, before I get started and dive into Lightroom and the computer, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just click that subscribe button on the bottom right there. And also stick around to the end of the video because I have a discount code that will get you 15% off Fotospeed papers on photospeed.com. So let's dive in and have a look at how we create one of these test strips. Now, before I get started, I should say I'm working on the Fotospeed Platinum Brighter today. So I've got some A4 box here and I've also got a big box of A2 just behind me. So really lovely paper, going to be really good. I'm going to be working on the lighthouse image as well. So hopefully we should have some great results. Okay, so let's dive into the computer and see how we go about making these test strips. Okay. So here I am in Lightroom. Now I've imported the picture here, so it's all just in here for me. The only thing I've done to it is just added a tiny little bit of sharpening in here, just to make everything a little bit sharper. The first thing I want to do is I want to create a collection, just to keep all these little copies and little variations in one place, just to make everything nice and easy for me so I can find it quicker. So the first thing I need to do is go into collections and just click on where it says new collection and then create collection. And I'm just going to call this Lighthouse and make sure I've got include selected photos ticked and then just click create. Okay, so the next thing I want to do though is I want to create a few virtual copies of this so I can create some variations to all be printed on one page. I'm going to go for 7, and the reason I pick 7 is because it's an odd number, so I'm always going to have a central control image. So I'm going to have my unedited picture in the middle, and then I'm going to go one way with exposure. So from on the left is going to be going down darker and on the right is going to be going lighter and more exposure. But I'm always going to have my control image, which is this image here, in the middle. And that's why I always pick an odd number. Okay, so let's create some virtual copies. I'm just going to right click on it and click virtual copy. And I'm going to make 7 virtual copies. Okay, so 5 and then just make 7. So number 4 is going to be my control image, so I'm not going to do anything to that. Let's go to the left-hand side to start with. So number 3 here, what I'm going to do is just make this a little bit darker. So what I'm going to do these in quarter stop increments. So if I click on the exposure here, where I can just put in a number, I'm going to put minus 0.25. And then click return. And then the next one, just going to move on to number 2 here, is I'm going to put in minus 0.50, so half a stop. And then on the last one here, I'm going to put minus 0.75. So we've got quite dark. So we've got 3/4 of a stop difference, half a stop difference, and then 1/4 of a stop. And then we are back to normal. So I'm going to do exactly the same now, but I'm going to go up in exposure. So I'm not going to put the minus in. So the first thing I need to do is just put in 0.25 on number 5, click on number 6, and then put in a half a stop, so 0.50. And then on the last one, 3/4 of a stop, so 0.75. And that should give us enough range in here. So we've gone from lightest all the way down onto our control image and then to the darker side of things here. Okay, so next thing we need to do is give this a print. So let's go into the print module, just click on here, and then you'll see I have already selected the single image on here. So I've got a nice big picture in the middle of the screen for me. It's not exactly what we want. We want the little strips going down. So first thing I need to do is make sure my margins are just at 0 here. Go into page setup and double check I'm on A4 from the paper size I'm going to be selected, and then on landscape and just click OK. Perfect. My cell size also is at maximum. The next thing I need to do is just go over to my columns and just tap in 7, because I've got 7 pictures. So I want 7 columns going across. Also, I want a little space in between. So I'm just going to put 3 mil of cell spacing between. So I've got a little bit of white space between each of the columns. Now, you'll notice that I only have 1 picture in at the minute. And that's because I've only got 1 selected. So go to the first picture in the range here, and then click on it, hold shift, and then click on the last one, number 7 there. And then that will put all the pictures in order for me. So I've got my control image in the middle, and then I've also got all the other images in there as well. Now you can move each of these around individually. So if you wanted to look at different parts of the picture, you could. I'm going to focus on the lighthouse just in the middle here, but we can move them around as we see fit. Now, and that is all we need to do. We've got a nice color variation from 3/4 of a stop underexposed to 3/4 of a stop overexposed, and then our exposure, kind of our control in the middle. And then we can give this a print and actually have a look and see which one we're going to print. So all we need to do now is just go down to the bottom, set our profile, set our media type, turn off color management if you need to, and then click print, and then we will have a look and see how this comes out. Okay, so let's give it a print and let's have a look. Okay, so here is my test strip I've printed off, and I've got my control image in the middle here, and then I've got my 1/4 of a stop, half a stop, and then 3/4 of a stop in underexposure that side, and then I've got my plus, 1/4, half, and 2/3 as well. So what I'm looking at, to be honest, is actually my control image has come out quite dark. And I'm thinking it's almost I need an extra half a stop exposure to get how I would like the print to look. Some people may print it off and think, actually, my screen edit is absolutely perfect. However, I'd like this lighthouse a little bit lighter. So this seems to be the best strip for me, so the half a stop. So let's go back into the computer, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to have a look at contrast as well. So I'm going to do another one of these charts and print one out and refine this a little bit now to have a look and see if contrast makes any difference. Okay, so what I want to do is get this picture here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new collection and call it Lighthouse +5 exposure. But what I want to do is go back into my library, and then I'm going to find the import. So we're going to have this one here. And then I'm just going to add this, call it Lighthouse 0.5 exposure. I'm going to put that in there. Okay, so that's in there. Then I'm just going to add the 0.5 exposure here. Okay, so then I'm going to do the same process. So we're going to create 7 virtual copies. So we'll just create these. And then what I'm going to look for now is I'm going to look for contrast and also the blacks and whites in here as well. So again, I'm going to keep my number 4 picture as my control image. So with number 3, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in 5 points of contrast. And then number 2, 10 points of contrast. And then 15 points of contrast on the first one there. Now on here, we're going to put in -5 contrast and -10 contrast. And on here, -15 contrast. So then we've got very contrasty to just coming back a little bit on the contrast here. And personally, I'm expecting to be around the number 5 mark here as well. So now what we could do with our contrast set, we just need to go back into our print dialog, set the 7 columns again, make sure we just select everything again. So we've got that lovely kind of thing going all the way across. And then what we can do is go down and give this another print. Okay, so I've printed one off. First thing I have to hold my hands up is I didn't put any cell padding in between the shots here. But I've got my control in the middle, and then I've got less contrast going to the right hand side here, and then more contrast going to the right here. Now looking at it, I'm looking at probably at the stone here. I quite like just 5 points of contrast added. That seems to just bring everything in a little bit for me and produces a really nice kind of look. Now I wouldn't have seen this if I hadn't done this test strip. So it's quite nice to do. And to be honest, going back to my first one, I would have probably printed it here and gone, okay, that's great. It looks great. But the half a stop here gave me that little bit more light and created a better picture, I think. But I wouldn't have seen that normally. So adding a little bit more contrast just highlights this area here. And we're talking a very fine amount, it's only 5 points. So it's not massively dramatic. So I think I'm pretty much ready to do the final print. But there's one stage I want to do. I just want to use one more sheet of A4 to print this at full size, just across the sheet of A4. And that is there just to do a final check. So it's there to stop me wasting a piece of A2 paper when I notice something, or there might be something I just need to clone out, or something in there that could be quite distracting. So I'm just going to do that now quite quickly, and then we'll make the A2 print. Okay, so here's the final kind of test, shall we say, the A4 print. Looks great, really happy with it. I've got the lovely kind of sheen here, kind of nice depth to it. So I think I'm ready to print it on A2. Now I can't see anything that's going to distract in the picture. So really worthwhile just as that final check. So in total, I've used 3 sheets of A4 just to proof this picture. But if you think that could have been 3 sheets of A2, then I've saved an awful lot of ink and time and money here. Okay, so let's do the final print on A2 and then we'll have a look at it. And hopefully we'll get this really nice, big, impressive print out of the printer. Okay, so let's click print. Okay, so here is the final print, and I'm really happy with it. This scene is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it is a great shot to start with. I should have said at the start of the video, it's not actually one of mine, just a stock image and things. But the light just coming down in the foreground and then just glancing this lighthouse up here and then going out to the sea just works really, really nicely and just gives you loads of depth. Now, just bringing the exposure up has also really helped this scene as well. I think if I printed it without doing the tests and those test strips, I think I'd be a little bit disappointed, to be honest, because it was a little bit on the dark side. So I'm really glad I did go through that process of doing the test strips and also that little bit of contrast as well. And it has just made a massive difference to the print. And I've only used 3 sheets of A4 and 1 sheet of A2. So really worth doing in your prints. I know it's a little bit of time and going through, it's a bit time consuming to actually do. However, it will save you paper, will save you ink, and also it will save you time in the long run. So well worth doing. Okay, well, I hope that's been useful. And if you did want to save some time and some money as well, please use the discount code FSYouTube15, and that's on photospeed.com, and that will give you a 15% discount on Fotospeed papers. Also, for all your US viewers out there, don't forget we have a flat shipping rate of $9 to the US now. You will be liable for any duty and import taxes and things in your own states, so please bear that in mind when you order. However, real worth getting your hands on some of our papers and giving them a try, just for that $9 flat rate shipping. So I hope you've enjoyed today. I think I've been wanting to do this video for a while on like updating, hard proofing and different techniques and things. And I really like using the strip technique now. It works really well and it just kind of brings everything in line for me. So give it a try and please let me know how you get on. And as always, please have an amazing week and I will see you next Thursday. Bye bye.